All right, I'm Mike Morano for DaemenWildcats.com. I'm happy to be joined right now by one of our women's volleyball alumni, Joanna Fretthold, 2013 graduate. Joanna, thanks for joining me today. Want to start big event that you had just last month. You're now married.
Yep. Yes.
Tell me about the day, and I'm sure with COVID and everything, it probably didn't go as you were expecting it to, but hopefully it was a lovely event nonetheless.
It was. Everybody keeps asking about it, and it's kind of nice because we get the best of both worlds. We did a church wedding and a small family party this year and postponed our reception till next year. So there are a lot of, it was stressful, but there's definitely a lot of pros that came out of it. 2 parties isn't bad, and it was nice to have a small intimate wedding this year and really focus on the day and not be too stressed about all the different things that have to be done on the actual day. And then next year we'll just get to have more fun and hopefully be more relaxed.
Now tell me a little bit about your husband, Trevor. Where'd you guys meet? How did you guys find some common ground and grow this thing?
Yeah, Trevor, I met through, there's actually a really extensive volleyball community in alumni volley community in Western New York. So he actually played at Madai, and he started coming around. He's actually younger than me, and he started coming around to the different leagues and tournaments when he finally graduated, and we just started hanging out that way. And it was pretty easy to find common ground through volleyball and all the different people we were meeting and hanging out with all the time. We've been together 5 years now. He's an accountant at UBMD and Associates in downtown Buffalo.
I kind of knew there was that volleyball player to volleyball player connection. That's why I asked, because I find it interesting how athletes tend to flock together.
Yeah.
Now, professionally, Joanna, as I said, you graduated Daemen in 2013 with a marketing degree. What have you been up to since professionally?
So when I graduated, it took a couple months, but I found a job as a marketing assistant at Prudential. And from there, I was there 2 years. Then I got a job with First Niagara. I was on the social media team helping out with customer care, so complaints and when different people would engage with the bank. And then in 2016, after a year at First Niagara, KeyBank actually acquired First Niagara, and I was fortunate enough to find a role at KeyBank as the social community manager, and I've been there 4 years this month, actually. So
now, obviously, we're in the middle of a global pandemic here. How has COVID affected you professionally?
Professionally, I was very fortunate that not too much changed for me. I actually am always a remote employee, so I actually was able to just stay working from home. Didn't have to worry about an office to home transition. But what really affected me through my work was the type of work I was doing. So instead of putting out ads on social media to talk about credit cards or refinancing your mortgage, we really focused on online and mobile banking because branches were closed. Or we focused on Easy Up. Easy Up is one of our savings products, like savings so that people could really try and reallocate and figure out their new budgets with the different circumstances that COVID brought around for everybody.
Great. Now, we just saw you last month before your wedding. You and a couple of your fellow alums joined us for the Wildcat Golf Classic. Tell us about who did you play with and how much fun did you guys have that day? I know I had a blast.
It was great. I played with my roommate from Daemen, who was a basketball player liaison, and then 2 girls who I played volleyball with for 2 or 3 years, Kaylee Vasquez and Bethany Lukey. Those are girls that I see very regularly still, and actually a lot of us have gotten into golf the past couple of years. It's just something that we've picked up. So, Kaylee, being the former assistant volleyball coach, is always in the loop with what's going on at Daemen and got our team together to play. And we had a blast. We'll definitely be doing it again for the foreseeable future. Absolutely.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned Kaylee, who not only played, but then was an assistant coach with us.
Mm-hmm.
You've maintained your own connection, especially to our athletic department. And this is something that I know because I'm the person that hires you. But what is it that you do within our department?
So for volleyball, I do all the scorekeeping, the official bookkeeping for the men's and women's volleyball, and then I do I work the table at the men's and women's basketball games, doing the game clock. And I think I've been doing that. I think even while I was still at Daemen, I was doing that as a part of work study, and then it just has been carried out. So, my gosh, it's been 7 or 8 years of that.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
I love it.
But you're a true professional, and you've actually branched out and been doing it for some other colleges too. So that's really cool.
Yep. Did some volleyball at UB and some game clock at Niagara University.
It's a great way to stay connected to sports for sure.
It is. I love being around Daemen and seeing all the changes that have been made too, and how the school's growing and athletics specifically. It's fun to see that change every year.
Let's jump into that right there, and I think we'll get into your playing career here a little bit. So you played volleyball at Daemen from 2009 to 2012. 6 rotation player. One of 9 players in program history with over 1,000 kills. You had over 1,500 digs, so really, really accomplished player on the court, going back to our NAI days. And you were around that 2012 season was our first year where we were starting to make that transition to NCAA Division II.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, knowing what you've seen over the last few years, just kind of working some games and stuff, what are some of the differences between when you played and now that you've noticed?
I really loved the NAIA as a volleyball player. It was really competitive, especially those Ohio teams. But what I've noticed with the NCAA and the switch in the past few years is how it's much more regimented, a lot more rules, but, I think that's, ends up being a good thing. I know that one of my closest friends, Kaylee, who was coaching there just a couple years ago, they do, preseason's very intense. They have much more of a spring season than we used to have. So it's definitely a different experience being a player now. It's hard to say which one I would have preferred. I loved my experience in every way, but it would have been so different, I think, how it is now.
Yeah, I totally understand having, kind of my own history in the NAI as a coach at 2 different schools, one including Daemen. The NAI, I think, holds a place close in a lot of people's hearts. But it's good to get that perspective from a former student athlete for sure. Tell me about your experience. Those years playing volleyball for Daemen. Give me like a memorable moment. Is there anything that sticks out at you?
Well, you mentioned the transition my senior year from NAIA to having to take that off year in between to the NCAA. And that, a lot of it could have been tough in a lot of situations, but it actually worked out really, really awesome for me because we were able to join the USCAA for a year. And, I know it wasn't as competitive as NAIA or NCAA, but it was so fun to be able to go to a small school like national championship and just be able to get that that feeling that not a lot of athletes get, and despite it being a smaller scale. And I loved it. I mean, I liked going to Ohio all the time for those road trips, and we were fortunate enough every year to be able to go on a really big volleyball trip. We went to Florida a couple times. We went to Salt Lake City. And we went to Sacramento, and I mean that's another thing that not all these players get to do, and that was really, really fun to be able to get to do a new trip every year.
Looking back, if Joanna of 2020 can go back and give advice to Joanna of 2009, what would it be?
Eat better, for sure. The last 2 years of volleyball, I really started training harder, like in the weight room and with plyometrics outside of just practice. But most college kids don't have the best diet, and I know that the current volleyball coach is pretty intense about that, and I would have really liked to have seen how that made a difference, because that's a big part of my lifestyle now, and I see and feel a difference every day. So I wish I could go back and say, get it together.
and that's something that's carried over for you post graduation, right? Like you've been involved in some real intense training. So maybe talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, actually, after college, I kind of took a couple years off from intense training and stuff, but I was still playing volleyball. But then I realized that I wanted to kind of get my act together, and I'm still working. Working out 5-6 days a week. I play in softball leagues, volleyball tournaments. So it's super important to me to be staying active, and I feel just as good as I did in college, which is not everybody can say. So I'm really happy about being able to say that.
Well, Joanna, I think that's the end of the questions that I have for you. Really appreciate you taking the time to join me here today. You helped the team to 85 wins in your 4 years, and you've helped this communications guy to 1 win here in the fall semester. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. And if you're an alumni and you'd like to be featured in this Where Are They Now series that we got going on here in the fall 2020 semester, you can email me at mmaranto@daemen.edu. We'll be coming back with you with some more alumni features next week. Thanks for joining us.